Here's the first example. We'll do the side version first. So here's what I have. I have all the sides, 15, 18, and 26. Now C is my 26. Uh-oh. That means this needs to be angle C. And then A is going to be this right here, and this is going to be B. All right, so I already have side C, that's 26. So I need to find that opposite angle, because obviously it's going to be the biggest angle, because 26 is the biggest side. 18 is an adjacent, 15 is an adjacent. So here's what it was. It was the cosine of theta is going to equal the opposite squared minus the adjacent squared minus the adjacent squared over -2 times the adjacent times the adjacent. Well, here are my numbers. I'll put them in red. So my opposite, this is opposite. And this is an adjacent, and this is an adjacent. And of course it says solve the triangle, and in this case I need to find all the angles. So we're going to start with that biggest angle first. All right, so it's 26 squared minus 18 squared minus 15 squared all over -2 times 18 times 15. And you're going to get a decimal. And the decimal that I got was -0.235, and I'm going to give it a bunch of numbers here, 185. Well, remember that this is equal to the cosine of theta. So the cosine of theta is equal to this negative decimal. But I need to solve for theta. So theta is going to be the inverse cosine of that decimal. And I'm going to put in as many decimals as I can to get my actual answer. And my actual answer here is 103.6 degrees. So this angle is 103.6. Now I can use that to go get my other side. So let's go ahead and solve for angle A up here. It doesn't really matter. Actually, we'll do angle B. We'll do this angle right there next. So this is step 1, find the obtuse angle. Step 2, we're going to find this other angle. Well, now I have an angle and a side and a side. So I want to use law of sines. So we're going to switch to law of sines to find angle B. Sine of 103.6, and its opposite side is 26 because that's what I have. And then I don't have B, but I have the sine of B over its opposite side at 18. Well, my sine of B then is equal to 18 times the sine of 103.6 all over 26. And my decimal here is, I don't know, I don't have that written down. But I do know that if I do my inverse, I'm going to get my measure of angle B to be 42.28 degrees. Or let's call it 42.3 degrees. So this here is 42.3 degrees. Now, I know that I said we should be using law of sines or use what we're given in order to find everything in our triangle, but in this case, I've done the law of cosines backwards, and I've done the law of sines backwards, and I think at this point, I can just use the idea that the angles of a triangle add to 180 to find the last one. So step 3, you're going to find your last angle. And you're going to use the fact that all angles of the triangle add up to 180. So 103.6 plus 42.3 plus a measure of angle A, that's going to equal 180 degrees because that's what triangles do. And when I have that, then I can solve. So now my measure of angle A is going to equal 34.12. or 34.1 degrees. So here is my answer for C. Here is my answer for B. And this is my answer for A, and I have solved everything that I need to for this particular triangle. Moving on to a different version, we want to do the side angle side version. So here's the second triangle, and we now have a side and the angle and a side. And we still need to use law of cosines to find this because I don't have enough information. I need to know this. And I cannot use the Pythagorean theorem here because it's not a right triangle. We get ourselves in trouble with that. So in this case, we need to find this side. So you're finding the side. We're going to go back to that original law of cosines where I have the opposite squared is equal to the adjacent squared plus the adjacent squared minus 2 times the adjacent times the adjacent times the cosine of theta. Well, here are my things. This is adjacent, and this is theta right here. Here we go. Putting our numbers in, my opposite, that's a squared. One of my adjacents is 17. The other adjacent is 12. So minus 2 times 17 times 12 times the cosine of that angle in between, that's 105. Now remember what I said. You've got to put this whole string in. Don't do all the numbers first and then times it by that. You've got to do this whole thing first. When you do it correctly, a squared should equal 538.598. Double check your calculator to make sure that you have it correct. After I get my a squared correct, I know that I would just take the square root of that to find a. And remember, you can do second square root, second answer to get this. And my final answer was 23.21. So now this is 23.21. And I can use this relationship now to solve for B and C. So this is step 1. I'm going to find that side. And then step 2, I'm going to find the other ones by using the law of sines. So this is law of cosines. I'm going to use law of sines. All right. I still have to use law of sines to find an angle. So we're going to use that to find measure of angle B. Okay, let's give myself some space here. All right, here we go. Well, I want to find this angle. So opposite of that is 17. So the sine of B over 17, and then I have to use what I have. So the sine of 105 over 23.21. When you cross multiply, you get the sine of B is equal to 17 times the sine of 105 over 23.21, and you get a decimal. And don't forget to do that inverse, and when you do it correctly, you should get the measure of angle B is 45.03. So the measure of angle B is equal to 45.03. So this is 45.03. So now I have the side and the angle, and I need this last angle. Well, step 3, I'm going to solve for the last part, whichever way it makes sense. And for this one, it's the same as the other example. So in step 3, I'm going to take my 45.03 plus my 105, and then I'm going to take my measure of angle C, and I know that it's going to equal 180 degrees. Therefore, my measure of angle C, if I just work that out, is going to be 29.96 degrees. So here was my answer for A. Here was my answer for B. And here was my answer for C. We have one more example left, and let's get to that. It's using area again. So here is my area, and I want to solve this. Now, finding the area, we know somehow that we're going to have to use law of cosines, law of sines, and notice that this one does not have a right angle, so there's no easy way to split it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and split it this way, because this gives me my obtuse angle, and I know that I have a side, an angle, and a side, and I can find this area. So let's find this area 1, and we'll make this area 2. Well, area 1, that's easy. We'll use our new triangle area formula. So 1/2, and I've got a side times the angle, sine of the angle in between. Well, area 1, if I work that out on my calculator, ends up being 33.29. Well, area 2 then, I would need a side, this angle, and that side. And I don't have anything. So I need my 1/2. I have one side, that's 14, but I'm missing that side, and then I'm missing this angle. So let's go ahead and find them. Well, to find this side, this is side y, and we can use the law of cosines. So we're going to use law of cosines to find y. All right, so y squared is going to equal 10 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 10 times 7 times the cosine of 108. When I find it and do it correctly, then I know that my x, or my y squared, or my y, after I square root it, is going to be 13.87. So this is 13.87. Well, after that, I need to be able to find this angle. So let's do that in green. So we're going to find this angle in green. So this is step 1. And then step 2, you got to find the angle. And we'll use law of sines for that. So the sine of 108 over 13.87 is going to equal the sine of theta over 7. Now obviously it's going to be less than 108. It's going to be the smallest angle. And when you do that